You're listening to Kizuki, the podcast. I'm Mae Yoshikawa, and I define the Japanese concept of Kizuki as the following. Kizuki 1. A moment of epiphany, an aha of realization or insight which opens the knower to a new dimension of truth that was formerly unknown. 2. Steps in an incremental growth of awareness, resulting in a movement from ignorance to greater awareness of the bigger picture. A kind of knowing that cannot be undone, that cannot be unrealized. As a longtime yoga and meditation practitioner, a world traveler, and curious self-explorer, I'm obsessed with Kizukis. Listen on each week for inspiring and enlightening stories that may just tip you over for your next aha. On this week's episode, the Dissonant Note. The scene begins with me being invited to a very posh restaurant here in Tokyo. It's an invite-only kind of night. Beautiful skyline views of just nightlife and neons of Tokyo stretching across miles. Live, vibrant music. It's the kind of place where you walk in and you can immediately tell that there are only cool people in the room. Like, very cool. But before I reach this place, I'm in my car, headed there, and I'm thinking to myself about calling my bestie just to say, hey, I'm doing the posh thing tonight. Wish me luck. And I don't, but that thought having crossed my mind would tell you something about me. Because there's a part of me that's rather introverted. A hermit, I might even say. It's also true that I'm a Gemini, and there's definitely an extroverted version of me too. But it's like I kind of do seasons. There are outward seasons, and I'm social and exploring. And then there are seasons where I'm much more inward, happy to be alone, and just reflective and quiet. Maybe I've been more leaning towards that inward scale, especially in the years since I've lost my husband. Anyway, all that to say, I'm just generally not the super extrovert type to jump on every and any cool opportunity to go to a party with a bunch of people. That would be like an honor or like socially meaningful to belong to. But this invitation felt different. It was a special friend who extended it to me, and somehow I felt the pull. Of course, I could have easily said no, I didn't have to be there, but it was a special occasion, and I felt like I wanted to go. So I went. And I had a fabulous time. It had been a while since I had really just taken a moment to receive the beauty of Tokyo nightlife. And the room was buzzing. The energy was beautiful and alive. Interesting people everywhere, conversations flowing, and live music just painting the air around us. It was lovely. It reminded me of how expansive and vivid life in Tokyo can be. But then something interesting happened. And this is just so May, right? On my car ride home, I'm still buzzing from the energy, and I caught myself thinking, well, May, why does this have to be such a big deal for you? Why can't you just go, have a nice time, appreciate it, own it, and come home? Like, why does there have to be this whole internal process of reflection around it, you know? Because the truth is, it really was an honor to be invited to this night. And so I got curious with myself. what exactly is my hang up here? Like, what's my resistance about? And when I got really honest with myself, I realized something. Because the resistance isn't really about the posh place. For me, it's more about the symphony. Let me explain, because I'm pretty sure you know what this symphony is all about. It's the unspoken vibe of the social music that plays in certain rooms. I think especially in big rooms or sometimes like even school events and stuff. There is a rhythm of having to be hip and cool, a quiet signaling of status and roles, like who fits into that role and who doesn't. And there is this unspoken recognition where everyone seems to know who's in and who's not. And therefore, this subtle performance of coolness to go with that entire silent symphony. And I don't mean to point all of that out in any malicious way. It's just that there is a particular flavor to that symphony in the room. And it almost feels like everyone is being there to play into that orchestra. And truth be told, I might feel like the slightly dissonant note in the room. You know, it's like I'm not buying into the same melody that everyone loves to vibe with. And this realization kind of made me chuckle to myself in the car because I didn't need to perform. I didn't want to perform. I didn't care to perform. And on this night, I could own it, you know? I wore something beautiful, but I didn't buy anything new or overextend myself. Oh, and yes, I very intentionally chose flat shoes because I didn't feel like wearing heels. And I still didn't feel out of place. I felt grounded. I felt invited because I was. I just felt like I could hold my own in that room, dissonant note and all. And then another awareness surfaced. I noticed, how do I put this? If I'm really honest, I noticed that part of my resistance included a subtle judgment, a mild narrative running in my head about, oh, yeah, those cool people in posh places. Because I noticed these people like flexing, you know, whether it's like the special champagne they're ordering or, I don't know, whatever exaggeration tone that you might hear in the way that they're talking about their work or knowing the right people or whatever. It's like people are eager to signal status, social status. And if you've listened to me on this podcast for any amount of time, you know that it's just not my priority, or I don't really live by those external values. So I had to ask myself a deeper question. But if they lived by those external values, would I judge them? Might I judge someone as being more shallow or superficial? And might I, in any inkling of a tiny subtle way, see that as less because it's lacking in depth? And that question opened another door for me. Because the truth is, the real fear for me wasn't the posh room. It was more about the contact with these people. So I sometimes refer to myself as deep sea fish. You know, I like to live in the deep waters. So it's kind of like, you know, shallower waters, more light in the room. So imagine this. Well, this is my vibrant mind, so join me for a second here. Imagine someone strikes up a conversation with me. Shallower, lighter feel, posh room. Maybe they're holding a glass of champagne. I don't drink, by the way. And then they ask me what I do. I explained that I'm in the wellness industry. I have a background in yoga and meditation. And then maybe I might mention Kizuki, these aha moments of insight that I like to collect and share, and Kizuki journaling, the work that I've developed. They might find it interesting. And then maybe they might ask about my family, and I'll tell them I have 2 kids. And then it starts to lean into a bit of a moment, because what if they ask me, oh, what does your husband do? And that's like a butt clench moment for me, right? Because then I tell them the truth. My husband passed away several years ago, and I'm raising my kids on my own. And then I almost viscerally feel the butt clench move from my butt to their butt, because they don't know what to say. And it's like this sense that I might have dropped something too heavy into a very light room, that I might become somewhat of a buzzkill for them. Because, let's be honest, most people don't really know how to sit with grief. Not because they're bad people, but because they've never been taught how. Usually the only people who truly understand grief are the ones who've already met it themselves. And even then, a lot of it can be unprocessed, which then ends up reflecting back their shit on me, and then it's not even mine to carry. So there's that risk too. So anyway, that's just an imagination. But as I was driving home that night, I started thinking about that room. 100 people, probably more. The hippest people in town. Music, laughter, beautiful energy. And I asked myself this question: how many people in that room have lost their spouse at a young age? And the answer comes to me: none. Maybe one. Just me. And then I sigh, and I ask myself another question: how many people in that room have known grief? Whether it's loss, illness, a breakup that shattered them, a parent getting sick, a job disappearing, moving somewhere new and feeling completely alone, losing a beloved pet, a life turning in a direction they never expected. How many people in that room have known or will know deep grief? And this answer comes very quickly to me too, because it's all, every single one of them. And that's how I come right back home to my center. Because what I realized was this: my fear of how a room full of cool people may or may not receive my truth was like preemptively making me judge them first in some subtle way, before anything even happened, before I even gave them a chance. And if I let that quiet preemptive judgment lead my decisions, then I wouldn't go to the cool dinners. I would somehow slowly start shrinking my own world. I wouldn't meet the people. I wouldn't give them a chance. I would stay safe inside the story I had already written about them. So maybe that's the Kizuki here. When we preemptively judge how others will receive our truth, we will end up shrinking our own world before life even happens. We decide in advance that they won't understand, that it might be awkward, that I'll be the one who ruins the mood. That could be the case, but that's not always the case. And so I choose to give it a chance, the benefit of the doubt, just for the sake of the possibility of real connection, even in a room full of possibly flexing superficial people. But I guess my point is this: that life itself doesn't ask us to play perfectly in someone else's projection or someone else's agreed upon symphony. If I want to, I get to be the dissonant note. And you know what? We all know that in music, divine music. Sometimes it's that one off note that makes the whole song deeper and more meaningful. So maybe the real invitation isn't to fit in perfectly to some posh room. Maybe the invitation was for you to simply show up as you, flat shoes and all. Thank you for listening. If you missed the recent Kizuki Journaling online session, the on-demand replay is now available at maey.live under On Demand. And if you'd like to be the first to know when the next live session opens, you can sign up for my weekly newsletter at the bottom of maey.live or kizukijournaling.com.